Good afternoon. Welcome to GDIC's webinar for the Alliant 3. My name is Cal, and I'm your artificial intelligence host today. With me is Ab Van, VP for Capture at GDIC and a subject matter expert on self-scoring proposals.
Hello, everyone.
Please note that this webinar will take approximately 1 hour. Before starting, there are 3 housekeeping notes I would like to mention. First, this webinar is being recorded and the link to the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. After a brief introduction of GDI Consulting, we will first review the Alliant program and how it is faring right now, as this is the 3rd iteration of Alliant. Then we will discuss Alliant 3 general information and then explain the proposal structure. The main part of the webinar will be devoted to a detailed discussion of the scoring system and Ab will explain this thoroughly. We will also touch on how the source selection process works. Partnering is an important issue in Alliant 3 and Ab will discuss that in detail. Finally, before going into the Q&A session, Ab will discuss the importance of compliance and will provide some experience sharing there. As a whole, the message we want to convey to you in this webinar is that the workload for preparing your proposal is quite high and you should start as soon as possible. Secondly, you should note that there are many perks in these self-scoring proposals and hence a rigorous compliance procedure should be in place, as Ab will explain. So, with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to start the webinar. Ab, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating in this webinar. Let's start with a glimpse of GDI Consulting's capabilities. I'll go very quickly over that. We have had more than a decade of solid performance. I won't go into the details. You can see from the headlines our growth, the win rate overall, the experience. We have over 50 proposal managers and writers and capture managers. And during 2023, we had 153 wins with $17.4 billion for the awards that we provided to our customers. As far as self-scoring success is concerned, the previous Alliant 2, we had 6 wins for the large companies. The SBs was protested, so I haven't put in any numbers there. Oasis, 12 wins for large, 41 for small business, and so on. You can see for Astro and others as well. Note that for Oasis Plus, we had over 105 clients. I think approximately 30 or 34 of them were large businesses, and we are pretty sure that all of them will be awarded. We haven't included that here because the decision has not been announced, but we have plenty of experience, so to say, as far as self-scoring is concerned. We have worked with almost all agencies in the government. And you can see I've put in some numbers. 6 wins on Alliant 2, 105 proposals for Oasis Plus, as I mentioned, 41 wins on Oasis, the previous one, small business, and 12 wins on the unrestricted, and so on. We have an average win rate of 96% on self-scoring proposals, because right from the beginning you can tell if it's a winner or not. So we usually recommend our clients whether they should proceed or not, because it's obvious usually from the beginning if they're going to have the score or not. We've held a lot of training for APMP and PTAX, APMP chapters in various states, and our clients range from very small companies all the way to very, very large defense contractors. One of the top 10 is our main customer. So we are experts in getting winning proposals, especially in terms of self-scoring, maximizing your score, and ensuring that your proposals are compliant. Okay, having said that, let's start with the Alliant program. Let's see if how it's faring, if it's growing or not, and it will give us an idea whether we should go after Alliant 3 as a whole or not. You can see that Alliant 1, or Alliant as they call it, was between 2009 and 2019. It had a $50 billion ceiling, and there's various, for the sake of time, I will not read everything. You can later on come back to this if you want to have more information about it. Alliant 2 was 2018 to 2028. $50 billion initially was the budget, but it was increased to $75 billion. And it covered 541512, obviously, computer system design services. But there were other task orders that covered other scope of work as well. It had approximately 66 task orders completed per year, so that's a good way of looking at it. An average contract value of $121 million. And for each task order, there were, on the average, 3 bids per task order. Now, Alliant 3 will probably start in 2025. Budget ceiling is open. We'll go into the details of it in the next slide, so I won't go into that. But you can see that it is a fairly healthy contract. Started with $50 billion, increased to $75 billion, and now they have an open ceiling for it. So, having said that, let's look at the growth. You can see that the blue is Alliant 1 and unrestricted. The orange is Alliant 1 small business, and green is Alliant 2. Obviously unrestricted because the small business side of Alliant 2 was protested and never got off the ground. So, but you can see that as a whole, this program has been growing steadily year after year. And this gives you an idea of how healthy this program is. Now, as far as the types of work, the categories, IT obviously is the main part, 79%, and then professional services, the task orders that covered professional services around 20%, and then other products and material and all other categories are very small, 0.67% and 0.47%. So this gives you an idea of the types of contracts or task orders that will be issued for Alliant 3 as well. As far as types of contracts, you can see that these are for 2020 to 2022. Cost plus award fee 32%, and firm fixed price 28%, and then cost plus fixed fee 20%. These are the main 3 categories that were used during those 3 years for the task orders. So it's not all FFP. A lot of cost plus award fee and cost plus fixed fee is also included. So overall, that's around 80% of the task orders built up by these 3 types of contracts. Okay, and also, went too far. Let's look at also the top 20 agencies using Alliant. You can see for fiscal year 20, 21, and 22. So GSA by far is the largest agency using Alliant by $11 billion. Those numbers are in the thousands, so multiply by 1,000. So that's 11 billion for GSA, and then the IRS 1.5 or $1.4 billion. And then you can see the Army and the other agencies all here. So these are the top 20 agencies using Alliant during the past 3 years, or actually 2020 to 2022. Okay, so that gives us an idea of how Alliant 3 is faring. Let's move into the Alliant, the Alliant program is faring. Let's move into Alliant 3 now. These are the general information. GSA, multiple award, IDIQ, GWAC, so multiple agencies. It has an open ceiling now. Period of performance 5 years base plus 1 additional 5-year option. Type of work is obviously information technology, NAICS 541512. Number of awards 60. This is full and open, so it's not set aside for any small business, but as we will see in the scoring part when I explain it, you'll see that they have put in some facilities for small businesses so that they can actually compete against larger businesses with the latest iterations. The status, second draft RFP was issued on December 8th. They gave a few more clarifications in early January, but essentially this is the second draft RFP. The full RFP is slated to be issued late April or May 2024, and the award will be February 2025. These are the scope of different types of work under IT for Alliant 3. I will not go into it. It's a long list, but you can see if it's somewhere that your type of, if you're new to Alliant, look and see if it covers the type of work that you're doing. Okay, now let's look at the proposal structure. There are 7 volumes, so to say, although once you prepare your proposal, it will not be very much like this in proposal volumes, because this is essentially completely different from the traditional proposal writing. So there's no writing involved, and a lot of document management and analytics. But there's the volume 1 general, all the administrative documents that you need to provide to the government, and these are included in L511 to L518. Then we go into the main part that will give you the highest score is relevant experience. L52 and L522 and L523 are the 2 types of relevant experience. They call them the NACS reps and the emerging technology or ET reps. REP stands for Relevant Experience Project. So there are some types that they are called NAICS, and we'll discuss that. I don't know why they put that name. And then Emerging Technology or ET reps. Then Volume 3 is Past Performance. Volume 4 is System Certifications and Clearances. Volume 5 is Responsibility. You have to fill out GSA Form 527 and other related information. Volume 6 is Organizational Risk Management and or assessment. We have to actually be very careful on that. I will cover that. It's important. And then lastly, volume 7 is sustainability. Now, if you're not familiar with self-scoring proposals, I recommend that you actually go to our website. There are a lot of free webinars on how to actually prepare self-scoring proposals on our website. For the sake of time, I'm not going to discuss how it works. So I'm assuming that you are a little bit familiar with it. We have to provide a lot of document as substantiation for all of this. So we claim a score under each of these and then provide the necessary documents to prove that the score that we have claimed is correct. But these are the 7 volumes involved in this. Okay, let's move forward. Let's go into the scoring system. This is the main part of this webinar. I want to go into details of the scoring and so that you have a full comprehensive view of how the scoring works, what are the perks, and how you should actually maximize your score. So let's first look at the main score factors. There are 5 of them. Experience, as we discussed, the NAICS reps, and as I said, REP is a relevant experience project, and ET reps, and ET is emerging technology. So NAICS reps and ET reps, they come under experience. That's the main part which gives you the highest score, and I'll show you in a graphic way how they compare with each other. Then you go into past performance. Then you have system certifications and clearances, organizational risk assessment, and sustainability. So these are the 5 main score factors. Some of them are much larger than the others, but let's look at them in a comparison to each other. So you can see NAICS gives you 37,000 points, NAICS reps, ET reps 9,100, organizational risk assessment 7,500, and I've put it here, not towards the end, as the full RFP, as the RFP actually states it, because I want to compare it with ET rep. I'll come back to that, why I'm doing this, but see that they're approximately in the same range. That ET reps are 9,100 and organizational risk assessment is 7,500. I will explain why I'm doing this. This is one of the important factors that you have to actually consider when you're going after partnering with other companies. Past performance, you can see is 17,500. Systems and search 17,600. So they're approximately the same. And sustainability is very small, 3,500. Now, the NAICS reps are based on 7 contracts that you can provide. So not more than 7. Maximum is 7. You can provide obviously less, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But if you want to have maximum score, you need to have those 7 contracts, and we will go into the details of each. Now, in the next parts of this slide presentation, I'm going to go into detail of each of these 6. So from here on, I will be explaining what are the requirements for each of these 6 are. Of course, since they are based on different factors, there will be not only a discussion of points, but also what the requirements for each are. So let's start with the first one, the NAICS Relevant Experience Projects, or REPs, reps. So this one itself has 5 different sub-factors. So you don't lose me. We are discussing main factor NAICS REPs, reps. By itself, it has 5 sub-factors: relevant NAICS reps or base points, project size and complexity, multiple agency award, cost reimbursement, and foreign location. So these are the sub-factors, and I'm going to explain each of them for you. Now, before going to detail of each of these 5 sub-factors, as I mentioned, you can provide 7 contracts to get the maximum score for the NAICS reps. Not more than 7, but each of those 7 contracts that you bring to the table must have some, there are some requirements towards them. So let's discuss that before we go into each of these sub-factors first. So this is a view of the points that you get, and you can see that the base point, or they call it the NAICS points, 17,500 is the most important, and then project size and complexity comes after that, 10,500 points, and then the others are much smaller. Multiple agency worth 3,500, cost reimbursement 4,000, and foreign location 1,500. So this is how these sub-factors compare to each other. This is under the NAICS rep. This is the main factor, and these are the 5 sub-factors under that. Okay, so these are the requirements for all those 7 contracts that you have to bring to the table to get the points for all those sub-factors. So as far as the type of contracts that you can have, these contracts can be single standalone contracts, or they can be task orders. Now these task orders can be under single or multiple award IDIQs or BPAs, or task orders under FSS contracts. So task orders are acceptable, but you cannot use the IDIQ or BPA itself as a contract. So task orders under those, or standalone contracts. Now, your contracts can be actually U.S. federal contracts. They can be state government contracts. They can be international public sector contracts. So if you got contracts from countries, other countries, but the main government, that's acceptable. And then you can have non-government or commercial projects from the private sector. That's acceptable too. So you can see that they have opened up a lot. Contracts can be prime contracts or perform as a subcontractor to another prime. So initially they did not accept subcontracts. Now they do. So that's another plus. So if many companies are just, subcontractors, but they have large contracts and things like that. So now if you have subcontracts, that can be acceptable as well. So 7 overall that must have these types of contracts, any of these. As far as the contract date is concerned, if the project is ongoing, doesn't matter when it started, but it has to have at least 1 year of performance. For ongoing projects, you need to have at least 1 year of performance. If it's a completed project, however, it must have been completed, so the finish date must be within the last 5 years from the date the proposals are due. We don't know that yet because the final RFP is not out. But whenever it's out and they say when the due date is, you have to go back 5 years, and the completion date for your contract must be within those 5 years. As far as the contract value is concerned, they have changed that a lot. They have reduced it. So the contract value must be equal or greater than 7,500,000. Anything above that is fine. Doesn't matter what it is. You don't get extra points here. But that's the minimum, $7,500,000. And this is the overall value. If it's a completed project, it means that you have to look at the obligated amount. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less than what's on the paper on your contract. So obligated amount for completed contracts. For ongoing federal contracts, it's the total estimated values, whatever the government said initially when they awarded it to you, including all option periods. So maybe you're in the first option year, but it has 5 option years. You include all those 5 option years. And remember, this is unlike Oasis Plus. It's not annual value. This is total contract value. And if your contract is a non-federal contract, then whatever is written on the contract award document or award form, whatever it is, that's what the value is. As far as relevance is concerned, it has to be in one of these 5 different NAICS codes: 518210, and then 541, 511, 512, 513, and 519. So your contract must be in one of these. Now, maybe you do have a contract, but the NAICS code on the contract is not that. That's fine. If you can get it changed, there's a form that comes with the RFP. You send it like Oasis and other self-scoring proposals. There's a form that you can always send it to the contracting officer, and if they sign off on it and attest to the relevance, that's fine. But if you have these, you don't have to do any more work. So these are the requirements for those 7 contracts that you need to bring to the table. So let's look at the table that gives the points for each and a little bit more discussion. So the first subfactor, relevance, or the base points, you have to have 7 reps, and for each you get 2,500 if you have those requirements that I mentioned in the previous slide. So that comes to a total of 17,500. For the second one, project size and complexity, depending on the value of the contract, you get different points. For example, if the contract is between 7.5 million and 34.9, in other words, less than 35, you get 500 points. If the value of the contract is 35 million to less than 100 million, you get 1,000 points, and 100 million or larger, you get 1,500. So assuming that you have 7 contracts, that's a total of 10,500. Remember that for all of these, you must use the same 7 contracts. You cannot use different contracts for each of these subfactors. So once you select one contract, you have to consider all these 5 different subfactors. That's why there's a lot of analytic work that needs to go into your selection of the contracts, juggling them, because sometimes you might have a very large contract, but you don't get the other points. Maybe it's not cost reimbursable, or maybe it's not, multiple agency, as I will explain. So selection of the contracts is not just looking at the largest contract. Sometimes you need to look at other factors as well. Third subfactor is multiple agency award. In other words, what they mean is that if you can prove that each of the 7 contracts that you bring to the table are from a different federal agency, you get 500 points for each of those agencies. So maximum is 7, so that's 3,500. Now, maybe you have 7 contracts, but all of them are from the Navy, for example. All you get is 500 points because just one agency. If half of them are from, say, Navy, and the other half are from the Air Force, then you have 2 agencies, and that's 1,000 points. So you can see that best way is if you can have 7 contracts which are from 7 different agencies. And the way you prove that is from FPDS. There is a agency code. You have to look it up. It has to be different. For larger agencies like the DoD, obviously the departments under it have different codes, but most other agencies, most other departments have just one code. Cost reimbursable. Now here you can only have 2 out of those 7 that you can get points for, and if that contract was a cost reimbursable type contract, you get 2,000 points. So the maximum is 2. So even if you have all 7 of them are cost reimbursable, all you get is 4,000. So only 2 of them will be selected for this, for a total of 4,000. And then foreign location, just one of the contracts. So again, if you can prove that one of the contracts was in a foreign location, was performed in a foreign location, you get 1,500 points. If you have more, you don't get more points. And foreign location does not mean Guam or Alaska or Hawaii. These are all considered U.S. territory. So everything outside U.S. territory, perhaps in Europe, Asia, Africa, those areas. So that's the scoring system for the next REPs. Moving forward, let's look at the ET REPs, the emerging technology REPs. Okay, so here we have a lot of subfactors, 13 overall. There are 11 emerging technology areas, which starts from artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, all the way to the 11th one, which is zero trust networks. These are the 11. And then we have the 12th subfactor, which is called breadth of ET. And then 13th one is use of small business in ET, and I'll explain those. So let's look at how they compare with each other. You can see that all the areas, so the 11 areas of emerging technology, you get 600 points max. Breadth of ET, you get 1,500 points, and use of small business in ET, 1,000 points. So this is as far as the point comparison of these different subfactors involved in ET REPs. Now, what are the requirements? So general, no project may be used more than once within the emerging technology relevant experience. So even though a project might cover 2 of those RAPs, ET RAPs, maybe it has AI and it is also a big data coverage, but you cannot use it. So just once. It is acceptable for the same project to be submitted for both primary relevant experience, the NAICS code as they call it, and the emerging technology relevant experience. So if you have, you can use a project that you use for the primary relevant experience. You can use it here for the ET relevant experience also. But it's not a necessity, so you can bring in, completely different projects here. They don't have to be the same ones those 7 ones that you use. Type of contracts completely similar to the NAICS or primary relevant experience. So they can be a prime or subcontract, they can be federal, or they can be local government, or even commercial contracts. They can be task orders under multiple or single award IDIQs or BPAs. Contract dates, similar again. The project, if it's ongoing, has to have at least 1 year of performance. If it's completed, the completion date must be within the last 5 years from the date of proposals are due, which is not set yet. Contract value. Now, the contract value is different here compared to the NAICS or primary relevant experience. This has to be equal to or greater than 1 million. And the important point here is the note. Note that this is the value of the overall contract, and the value of the actual emerging technology work may be less, even a few $1,000s. That's acceptable. So maybe you had a $1.5 million contract. It was a construction project, but you did some sort of a, say, big data, or you did an AI work in it for $2,000. That's still acceptable. As long as the contract covers some sort of ET, emerging technology, that's acceptable. For completed federal contracts, this means the actual obligated amount, that's 1 million. For ongoing federal projects, the value is based on the total estimated value, inclusive of all option periods. And then for non-federal contracts, whatever is written on the contract award form or document that you have. Relevance obviously must show relevance toward one of the ET subfactors to be relevant for this. So these are the requirements for the ET RAPs. Now let's look at the point factors. For 1 to 11, which were the ET areas, maximum you can provide are 3 contracts. Remember again, these can be commercial or federal. Now the first contract you provide, you get 100 points. The second contract, you get 200 points. The third contract, you get 300 points. So 600 points per subfactor. There are 11 of them, so you get 6,600 for all of them. You don't have to have, cover all the ET areas. Maybe you're strong in 2 or 3 areas. You don't have any. And you don't have to have all 3 RAPs per area. Maybe you only have 1. That's fine. So there's no, requirement as to the number. Now, the 12th subfactor was called breadth of ET RAPs. Here they want to see how many of these areas or these categories, these 11 you covered. If you cover 2 to 4 of these ET categories, you get 500 points. Now, when they say cover, it doesn't mean that you have to have 3 contracts for each. Even 1 contract is enough. So if you have 1 contract in each area, that's considered covered. So 2 to 4 categories, you get 500 points. 5 to 7 categories, you get 1,000 points. And 8 or more categories, say you have all 11, you get 1,500 points. So the maximum is 1,500. So that's the breadth of ET reps. Now, the 13th one is called small business usage. They want to see how, how strong you are, or how capable you are on using small business for the emerging technology points that you're getting. If you yourself are a small business and you're the offerer for Oasis, for Alliant, if you are the offerer and you're small business, you get the full 1,000 points. But if you're other than small business, or you're a large business and you're using small businesses to get points for those 11 ET areas, for each small business that you will be using, you get 200 points for a maximum of 5. So if you have 5 small businesses bringing you more points for those ET areas, the maximum is 1,000 points. So that's how the ET reps are calculated, the points for. Let's move on now to organizational risk assessment. Remember that I mentioned previously that this is an important issue vis-a-vis this ET reps, because many companies can bring in those 7 contracts that you need in the primary, or what they call the NAICS reps. They have their own, but obviously they might not cover all those 11 ET areas, so they want to bring in subcontractors or create JVs or whatever to be able to get more points there. Now, there is a catch, and that's called organizational risk assessment. So what is this catch? The thing is this: if you're creating new JVs, or if you're creating prime sub relationships, and prime subs only work for small businesses when all the businesses are small. I'm talking about Alliant 3, but when a small business is the prime, and then the subs are also small businesses, that's allowed. That's a prime sub relationship. It's called the CTA that is allowed for Alliant 3. The problem is this: you get 7,500 points if you can show that either you're going solo, or the CTA you have, the JV you have, or the prime sub relationship that you have has worked together previously. And previously means when the RFP for Alliant is issued. So if you have worked together before, that's fine. But if you're creating JVs or creating new prime sub relationships just to get those points for ET reps, for emerging technology reps, and trying to get extra score, you lose this 7,500 points. So that's something to consider. And this is why I have put this right here so we can discuss it. So as I said, you receive 7,500 points if you can prove that you're adhering to the organizational risk assessment requirement. So need to understand this clearly, especially as it pertains to JVs and CTAs created for ETREPs. To receive credit for this proposal element, all members of the joint venture or small business subcontractor in a contracting teaming arrangement must demonstrate combined previous experience for every project submitted for organizational risk assessment. So all the projects that you submit must have been done together as the JV or as the prime sub. Previously performed for the purpose of this evaluation factor is defined as performance that took place before the issuance of the Alliant 3 unrestricted solicitation. This means that if you're forming a new teaming arrangement under either JV or CTAs as prime sub, which is only allowed for small businesses, then you don't get these 7,500 points. So you have to weigh what you gain with what you lose. If you're doing it just for ETREPs, it's probably not a good move, and you will end up with less points at the end, going through the entire hassle and logistics of partnering. So you have to go through the entire hassle, get those 5 or more subcontractors to get those points for the REP, but you will lose 7,500. And that is why this is something that you must consider. Look at it again. You lose that 7,500 organizational risk assessment, and you gain part of that ETREP. That 9,100 is if you have covered all the 11 areas with 3 contracts for each, and you're a small business, or you have, you're using that small business 200 points per subcontractor. So this is something to consider when you're actually going after this, trying to do a partnering. And I'm going to touch on this again in the partnering section, but I wanted to mention this here. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to past performance, which is another main factor. You receive 2,500 points for each of the 7 REPs you provided under the next REPs, for a total of 17,500 points. You must show that they have a positive or neutral past performance rating. A past performance assessment must be submitted for each relevant experience project. Now, this can be a CPAR, and if a CPAR is not available, there's a form called JP6, past performance rating form. You have to get that signed, filled and signed by the contracting officer if it's a federal contract, or by the owner of the contract if you're using a commercial contract, or if you're a sub to a prime, then the prime must actually fill this out and sign it. Remember that if you do have a CPAR, then you cannot use a JP6 form. So you have to have that CPAR. And finally, if you provide less than 7 RAPs, the value will increase for that 2,500 points. So at the end of the day, if you can show, maybe you're only providing 5 contracts in the initial section, in the experience section. Instead of 7, you're providing 5. Then the form automatically divides 17,500 by 5, and will give you that point, which is I think 3,500 or something. So that value, that 2,500, is variable depending on how many contracts you're using. But as a whole, as I mentioned, you really need to have all those 7 reps in the experience section to get the maximum score. So that was past performance. Let's go to systems, certifications, and clearances. That's another main factor for points. There are 12 of these. Adequate cost accounting system, approved purchasing system, current FPRA or FPRR, EVMS, acceptable estimating system, and then CMMI, ISO 9001, ISO 20000, ISO 27001, and then secret or top secret facility clearance. So these are the 12 that you can get points for. Let's look at how they compare to each other. So here you can see that the most important one is the adequate cost accounting system. I'll explain that. And then you will see approved purchasing system, and perhaps these are the same, approved CMMI, ISOs, they all get 1500. Secret, top secret facility clearance, 3,500 points for top secret. So these are the main ones, and then the FPRA, FPRR, or the EVMS or estimating system, these get smaller points. So let's look at this in a table format. You can see that adequate accounting system, you get 6,000 points if your cost accounting system is approved or certified by DCAA or DCMA. But now they have added this. Maybe you don't have that, but a FCA, so a contracting officer from another organization, or a CPA, an approved CPA, third-party CPA, has certified your cost accounting system. If that's the case, you get 3,000 points. So all is not lost. If perhaps your system is approved by a CPA, you still get 3,000 points instead of 6,000. The same is for the approved purchasing system. For the approved purchasing system, if it's DCA or DCMA certified, you get 1,500 points, but you get 70, half of that if a CPA, for example, certified it. Of course, that CPA must have approval to do government type of purchasing system to approve that. But you get 750 points for that. Now, current FPRA, FPRR, and or approved billing rates, 300 points. EVMS, 100 points. Acceptable estimating system, again, even though it doesn't have that much of a point, but if it's approved by DCA or DCMA, you get 200 points. If it's a, I think that's a mistake. If you have an FCA or CPA certified one, you get 100 points. Moving forward, oops. Okay, so CMMI. If you have level 3 or greater, that can be services or development, you get 1,500 points. If you have level 2, you get 1,000 points. So level 3 or higher, you get 1,500 points. ISO 9001, ISO 20000, and ISO IEC 27001, you get 1,500 points each. And then FCL, top secret facility clearance, you get 3,500. Just the secret facility clearance, 2,000. And then you have to provide a letter. I haven't gone into the substantiation for each of these. They are clearly spelled out in the RFP, what documents you need to provide for substantiation. So that was systems and certifications. The last factor is sustainability is a small factor. There are 2 points in it, 1,750 points, 1,750 points, each of these 2 factors for overall 3,500 points. So the first one, if you can show that you have scope 1 and scope 2 GHG disclosure completed, you get 1,750. If you can prove and show that you have scope 3 GHG disclosure completed, you get another 1,750 points. I will not go into the details on the explanation of what these are, but you can read them, and there's more explanation on the RFP itself. But overall, 3,500 points for sustainability. It's something good to have, because at the end of the day, because they're going to pick 60 companies, you want to get all the points that you can get. So sustainability, even though the points are small, don't forget about it. Try to actually start, even if you don't have it, get these third parties to actually go through your system and get your GHG disclosures completed, either scope 1 and 2 or 3 as well, to have that 3,500 points when the RFP is out, and then you submit your proposal. So with that, we are finished with the scoring system. Pricing is not defined yet how they're going to do it, and it usually, at least as far as we know from the previous experiences with GSA, pricing does not have a point factor related to it. It's just a pass-fail. You have to have proper pricing to be able to actually go through it. Usually what they will do is that they will list a number of LCATs, labor categories, and you're supposed to price them fully burdened rates. And then usually, again, per experience, for example, on OASIS and on a lot of other self-scoring types, you just have to be within the limits, the minimum, maximum that the government has for these labor categories, the hourly rates and everything. If you're within that, you're good to go and you pass. So pricing is usually the easy part of these self-scoring proposals. We'll have to see when the full RFP drops. They've said that they're going to explain that when the full RFP drops. So we'll see that then. Now let's look at the source selection process too. Essentially, there are 4 levels or steps that they will take. Ranking. So remember that they're going to pick 60. Assume that they receive 300 proposals. They're not going to look at all the 300. What they're going to do right at the beginning is to rank them based on the score that we, as the contractors, have scored ourselves. So they're going to pick the top 60 and put aside all the rest. So that's the first thing that they're going to do. Then they're going to go into second step, support document screening. So they want to make sure that you have all the support documents in place. If not, they put aside that offers proposal and pick the 61st one and bring it into the list. So they are going to always work with 60 proposals only. Third step is the acceptability review. They're going to review everything and make sure that all the documents are in place. And again, they're not going to go into content yet. Acceptability review, they've explained what it covers. They want to make sure that you have all the administrative documents, everything is in place. And then finally they go into, and again, if somebody doesn't have one, they are kicked out, and then the next in the ranking will be placed. And then in the fourth section, they're going to go into the document evaluation process. So here, say you have claimed that you get 60,000 points overall. They're going to look at each and every substantiation document that you have provided to make sure that the points that you have claimed you deserve and are correctly done. If that's the case, you're good to go and you're awarded because you're part of those 60. If you're not, and your score drops below the next one, they juggle them around until maybe your score drops so much that you go over the 60th one. So they put you aside and again bring the 61st instead of you. And that in this way, they have put the burden on us on the job. They are going to only look at 60, highest score proposals only. So it doesn't matter if they receive 300 proposals or 3,000 proposals. As far as they are concerned, the government's concerned, the workload is the same. They just look at the top 60. So that's essentially the source selection process and how it works. Now let's look at partnering. It's important to understand how it works. So because two types of companies will be submitting offers for Alliant 3, I'm going to discuss each. We have other than small businesses, so large businesses, so to say, and then we have small businesses. Both can participate, but the rules are different for them, so that's why I have separated them out. So, and I'm going to go into details of each. For other than small businesses or large businesses, you can only have JVs, but for small businesses, you can have JVs plus prime sub relationships. So, but remember that both the prime and the subs must be small under 541512. Maybe they're large under other NAICS codes, that's fine. But as long as all of them are small under 541512, that's good to go. Now let's look at each of these separately. So first case is other than small business arrangements, so large businesses. Under Alliant 3, only existing JVs are allowed. Prime sub relationships or FSS CTAs are not acceptable. Obviously, note that that is the case for other than small business, not for small business offerers. So we're talking about large businesses here. Joint venture must represent all proposal submission documents required under Section L5, including relevant experience, past performance, systems, certifications, and clearances under the solicitation. This is they must all be in the name of the JV. The only exception to this, so the exception to the fact that all those contracts must be in the name of the JV, is for system certifications and clearances. To receive credit, it can be either in the name of the JV or in the name of every member of the JV. So if you have a JV comprised of 3 different companies and you're going to go for EVMS, for example, either the EVMS is in the name of the JV or all 3 companies must have EVMS to get the points. So that's how it works for large businesses. Now going to smaller businesses, small businesses, you have 2 types of work, JVs and prime sub relationship. Here we're discussing prime sub. Relevant experience projects may be in the name of the offerer or in the name of any proposed subcontractors. So if you're a small business prime, you can have a number of subcontractors. Remember that all of you must be small, under 541512. And if that is the case, then you can bring in any contracts that your subs bring to the table. Past performance examples may be in the name of the offerer or in the name of any proposed subcontractor. So out of those 7 contracts that you have for the NAICS reps, primary reps, maybe 5 are from yourself and 2 from 2 different subcontractors. That's fine. Then when you provide past performance, again, you provide past performance for your 5 and past performance for those 2 from the subcontractors. Any system certifications clearances claim must be in the name of the prime offerer only. So if your subs have them, they don't count. Risk assessment elements are for the submitted prime and subcontractor as a whole. So either you have worked together before, if so, you get that 7,500 points. If not, if you're forming that prime sub relationship now, you lose that 7,500 points. Financial responsibility documents must be submitted for the offerer and each proposed subcontractor. The offerer must submit a subcontractor letter of commitment for each proposed subcontract. So that's the small business subcontract arrangement. And the third one is small business JV arrangements. Fairly similar. Relevant experience projects may be in the name of the JV or in the name of an individual member of the joint venture. Past performance examples may be in the name of the joint venture or the individual members. Offers submitting as a joint venture must provide evidence of system certification clearances being in the name of the JV or in the name of every member of the joint venture. So again, the same thing as in large businesses. For EVMS, either it's in the name of the JV or all the partners plus the prime must have EVMS. For certifications with varying levels, like for example CMMI level 2 or 3, scoring will be only awarded to for the level that is that are in the name of joint venture or have been met exceeded by all members. So if the joint venture has a CMMI level 3, then you're good to go. You get the points for level 3. But say the joint venture doesn't have a CMMI, one company has, say the prime has level 3, but the subcontractors have level 2, then you get the points for level 2. If one of the subcontractors doesn't have a level 2, doesn't have CMMI at all, you don't get any points for the CMMI. No credit will be allowed for a certification through a meaningful relationship. Remember that. Organizational risk assessment are for the JV or CTA as performed by all members. So again, you either lose the 7,500 points or you must have worked with those partners, with the JV partners before. Okay. Let's look at some compliance issues and other factors as well. Going very quickly, we are running out of time. So non-compliance, I always show this. If you participated in my webinars before, I apologize, but I want to make sure that this is pounded time and again. You can see how important compliance is from this. I got some points, some offer submission results for the HCAS, which is another type of self-scoring a few years ago. The orange ones are the ones that were put aside due to non-compliance. So you can see for the small business submission, 70% were put aside because they were found non-compliant. For large business, 49%, nearly 50% were put aside due to non-compliance. This is a few years old. Obviously, most businesses have learned how to prepare their self-scoring proposals. They're more careful, but it is, per our experience, still a major factor playing into whether you're going to win or not. So if you remember those steps in the selection process, the government wants to, get all those companies that are non-compliant put aside as soon as possible in the selection process. So you really need to be careful on compliance. So how to prevent it? Read the RFP and all its Q&As thoroughly multiple times. Create a reliable compliance checklist. It's really important. We put a lot of time in those checklists and we do it multiple times. Do at least 2 rounds of compliance checks. When you're finished with the scoring, you might do it during the scoring, but when you're done, 2 rounds at least. Attention to details is vital. Check every single item per the RFP sections L and M multiple times to ensure they are compliant. Discuss compliance with your team. Be a devil's advocate. Always assume that you have missed something. Always review how you can increase your score. You want to be the top 2 offer. That's the goal. So you want to really, increase your score all the way up. Utilize a third party to review your scoring and your proposal documents to have another set of eyes check your work. So third party, either a company or if you have maybe you have a colleague who has worked on this but was not part of the process and is capable of actually checking it. This is not a sales pitch. I'm trying to say that multiple set of eyes must check your work. So moving forward, what can go wrong? Compliance, compliance, compliance. Misunderstanding the requirements, not maximizing your score, not substantiating your score properly, stretching the score too far, which usually results into disqualification even, and not submitting the proposal correctly. All of these we have witnessed during these years. So it's really important to really take care of each of these. Each of these we have prepared tools for them in our company. Perhaps when you're preparing your proposal, you should have your tools for them as well. Later on, we will probably have some webinars with the tools that you will need to prepare your Alliant Alliant 3 submission. But essentially, you need really, analytical tools and compliance checking tools to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Lastly, I wanted to make sure that I share this. This is the usual resource, time and allocation, time spent for these self-scoring proposals. The proposal selection and partnering phase usually uses 50% of the time. Contract selection, preparation of the proposal documents, compliance reviews, all of these. So 50% for contract selection and partnering, 25% for proposal preparation, compliance reviews 20%, and then 5% submission. This is the usual timeline that is used. Per our experience, we've done, assuming I count the Oasis Plus, over 220 or 230 of these during the past few years. So, this is out of that experience. How we can help, very quickly on that too. So we provide free consultation, we provide full proposal development, we put a dedicated proposal team for you, scoring, assessment and optimization, full proposal assembly, cradle to grave, full and multiple compliance checks, and submission preparations. We also do review and auditing for those who have in-house teams. We do 2 rounds. Once your proposal is ready, we do 2 rounds of compliance checks, score optimization checks, and submission preparation. So these are the different services we provide. Overall, our company has 4 different divisions: proposal development, capture management, support services for things like competitive intelligence, black hat, and price to win, and then training. These are the various services that we provide. Okay, so I've put in our information. If you want to contact us for technical matters, contact me with the email and phone number, and Maroon 3D for sales. Or if you want to set up a consultation, as I said, it's a free consultation. The number is there. Email, you can use either. With that, we come to the Q&A, and we have run out of time. So let me pick a few very quickly. Okay, so I will read, say, 2-3 of these quickly, and then I will answer everything else by email because we've gone over the time. So first question, you said that if you're a large business, we cannot bring in subcontractors, either small or large. Did I hear you correctly? Correct. If you're a large business, other than small business, the only way you can have a CTA is through JVs. So existing JVs. You cannot use a prime sub relationship sort of arrangement for Alliant 3. You cannot. Next question. Do you provide full proposal development for Alliant 3 for large businesses? Do you do it remotely or in our office? Yes, we do provide full proposal development for large businesses, and we can do it both remotely and in your offices. Usually remote is better because it's not a start and finish type of job. It takes quite a while, but we can also perhaps come over to your office to help you in terms of digging out different documentation, things like that. But we usually do it remotely. It's easier for both sides. As a small business, third question, as a small business, can we use a subcontractor for some of those 7 contracts for the experience factor? Yes, you can. So as I mentioned, perhaps 5 of them come from you, 2 from your subcontractors. That's acceptable. And then you present the past performance again, 5 of them for those from your subs. That's acceptable. But do remember what I explained with regards to the organizational risk assessment factor, the 7,500 points. Maybe you prefer to lose that, but you get more points. That's fine, as long as you do the math and make sure that you're gaining more than losing. So I'm sorry I've received, I think at least 20 more questions, but I will try to respond by email to all your questions, and I apologize for going over the time. Thank you everyone for participating in this. As I mentioned, please feel free to contact Maroon 3D if you want a free consultation, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars ahead. Thank you. Have a good day.